Wax's podcast, talking mad shit about an interesting fact. Wax's podcast, listen to it every Wednesday.
Yeah, shout out to James G on the Wax's podcast jingle you just heard. It's been a while since I've done a Wax's podcast listener-made jingle. It's been a long time because it's been a long time really since I've done the podcast. This is the first time I've done a solo podcast in probably a year. I don't know exactly how long. But I apologize if I sound jarbly, grumbly, mumbly, rumbly, and tumbly because I'm just waking up in the morning. Gotta thank God. I don't know, but today seems kind of odd. It doesn't actually seem that kind of odd, as Ice Cube said that day. He said it seemed odd because it seemed like he was going to have a good day. But it seems like I might have a good day. I might have a bad day. Who knows? But the point is, this is like the first talking that I've done today. Today is Wednesday, August 28th, 2019. And I'm resuming Wax's podcast. The last one I did was with my brother. The one before that with my friend Davey. We'll see if I still know how to podcast on the solo tip. We'll see. I just want to do a quick podcast saying thank you to everybody that's been supporting me over the years. Thanks to everybody that's listened to the last couple podcasts. And I've been going through the emails, beatsforwax@gmail.com. I've been kind of going through the emails. And the main thing I've been going through them, looking at, is everybody that did the thing we did earlier this year. Earlier this year, me and Davey did this thing where for our song Push On, we made a thing where people could submit their own voice to be on the song. You can check that song out. It's on Spotify and YouTube and iTunes and whatever you want to check it out on, but it's out now. And there's a chorus part where there's a huge background vocal. And that's 500 people that submitted their voices, and I was amazed that many people did it. I didn't think it was going to be like that. That's weird, amazed. I just realized I'm looking at a screen. I'm like kind of getting my email open, and there's a junk mail from Amazon, and I didn't realize Amazon and Amazon kind of look the same. Anyway, I just want to read a couple emails again. I got so many emails for that thing that to go back to where people were actually emailing me from the podcast, I've barely even scratched the surface yet. So I'm going to continue to try to kind of go back into my email list or my email inbox. I'm going to try to go back into my email inbox and answer questions and give shout outs. Today I got a couple shout outs because I've only gone back so far. I got Jake B. from Denver, Paulie, Dina B. and her husband, Becca G., Tom C. the B-Boy, EJP, King's Eyes, Czechoslovakian, Petey Machete, Paul Y., and Hesky. And like I said, I'm going to get a little bit further back. I want to shout out to everybody who did those vocals. If you're listening, if you did those vocals on Push On, one of the 500 submissions, thank you so much. I made a video a couple months ago where I thanked everybody. My way of trying to show gratitude, which is a thing you should do in your life. You should try to show gratitude and be grateful for all the things you have. Unfortunately, a weird way to think about it is most people, when they say that they're grateful for what they have to think about somebody who doesn't have any of the things they have. But, yeah, that sucks. Yeah, I'm not super, awake yet for this podcast. I've been doing a lot of shit, y'all. I've been doing more work than I've ever really done. I've always worked pretty hard. Kind of hard, I guess. But recently, I've been really stepping my game up. I'm really excited about the shit that I'm doing. I'm really focused. And I'm trying to be better at my job of being an artist, my job of being an independent artist who has fans, and trying to be more appreciative of the people who like my music. I've been putting out a lot of music. If you haven't heard, I put out a surprise album a few days ago called the Acoustic Monday album. It's 22 tracks. It's a man and his guitar, with a couple exceptions. There's a couple tracks. There's a couple new tracks where I have some drums and stuff like that on there. New tracks are called Flurry, Flawless, and Forgive and Forget. I don't know why it's all F's like that. That's just random. That wasn't some planned thing, man. It wasn't like the fucking way that Dark Side of the Moon lines up with the Wizard of Oz, and they planned it, which I don't think they did. Who knows? You gotta ask Pink Floyd, man. You gotta fucking ask Pink Floyd about that one. But, yeah, so I put that album out. Check it out. If you want to be super supportive, you can buy it on iTunes. And if you want to be semi-supportive, you can stream it on Spotify. If you just want to fucking check it out, you can listen to it on YouTube. Or you can download, I have one of those videos on YouTube for this album where it's like the full album. So it's just like an hour-long video of just the picture of the cover with the music. So I guess you could just copy that. You could copy that URL if, in case you're not tech savvy or whatever. You can copy that web address, then go to Google and type YouTube to MP3, and that first link that comes up, click on that, then paste that thing in there. Bam! You can download the whole fucking album in one long file for free if you want to listen to it like that. That's fine too. But, yeah, that's a bunch of the songs that people wanted me to put on an album. I'm sorry about the songs that I didn't put on there. It's funny, like, you put 22 songs out, but you kind of get more commentary about what songs are not on there than the ones that are. But I apologize for the ones that aren't on there. But it has a vibe, man. That album has a vibe. It's actually one of my favorite things I've ever put out. But speaking of albums, I have my full album that I've spent a lot of fucking time and energy working on. That album is called Bah, which is the sound that a sheep makes. And you have to say it like that to officially say the name of the album. That album is now going to be coming out on September 16th, y'all. I'm going to make like kind of a more official announcement of it, I guess. Sometime soon. A more official date or whatever. Like I'm some fucking... I don't know, but it's going to come out on the 16th, and I'm going to start pre-selling this shit hopefully Friday. It looks like for this Friday I'll start like a pre-sale campaign. So stay tuned for that. I'll have a video kind of showing what I got there. I got some CDs. I got physical compact discs for this shit. So I signed a bunch of those. I'm going to have some other merch, too. I'm going to have skateboard decks, y'all. Limited edition. Autographed. For some reason, saying signed sounds fine, but when you say autographed, it sounds like you're being hoity-toity and arrogant. But I'm going to have skateboard decks. And I got T-shirts, of course. Already on the site, I got guitar picks. I got bottle openers. I got wax coolers. And a bunch of other stuff, wax.com.com. Go check that out. I want to read a couple emails today. Some emails I got from people. This one is from Justin K. from Seattle. Hey, Wax, Justin K. from Seattle here. I noticed it's been a long time since you've made any podcasts. This was before I started back doing the podcast. Just wondering where you've gone, what you've been up to, and why you haven't made any new podcasts recently. I have a question for you. Who do you think would win in a fight to the death? 5 waxes or 1 adult male grizzly bear? Would love to hear your reasoning on that. Anyways, I hope all is well. I think the grizzly bear would win, man. I'm not really familiar with the size of the grizzly bear. Actually, I take that back. I think the 5 waxes would win because I'm assuming that this is in a wooded area, and maybe we'd be smart enough to get sticks, stab the motherfucker. But if the grizzly bear is anything like the bear that fought Leonardo DiCaprio in that one movie, yeah, I think the bear would probably take out 5. I think actually probably 4 of them would be able to run away while one of them got killed. I don't think he'd have time to kill all 5 of them. Anyway, another letter I got was from R. Ortiz. Yo, Wizax, man, I hope you are okay. The podcast just kind of stopped. It's a good look that you are doing your acoustic shit and posting new videos. Your fans are worried and curious, though. You should give us some sort of update so we know you are okay or not okay, man. You are a real mofo. And all of us other real mofos want to make sure you are good. So I just want to say, like, I don't really have a super logical reason that I stopped doing my podcast for a year. I will say this: the podcast takes a little bit more effort than people might think. You know, just like, first of all, like going through the emails, finding the emails that you're gonna read, doing the actual recording of it, then doing the uploading of it, then doing some level of promotion for it. Like, that's all time consuming too. But it's weird. The thing that really takes the most effort is just like the mental effort of like knowing you got to do it. You know what I mean? It's just like another thing on the to-do list. If you're like me, most of the things that are on your little to-do list, it actually takes more of your time and mental space, like thinking about the fact that you got to do it coming up, than how much time it actually takes to do it, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, say you got to go to, say you got to mail a package. The time that it actually takes to put the package together, go to the post office, and mail it is usually less time than it took of you thinking about, oh, shit, I got to mail that, for like the 3 weeks you've been procrastinating on it. So that's number one. I did my podcast relatively consistently, not really consistently, but I did 160 some episodes, and I started it in 2012. Everybody got a podcast now. I mean, a lot of people had podcasts in 2012, but everybody has a fucking podcast now. But I never really made my podcast with the intention of like it doing well. You know what I mean? If I was doing that, I probably would have guests. Anyway, that's all beside the point. I think that what last year, as many of you know, in March of 2018, one of my best friends in the world, EOM, passed away. And for a while after that, I was just in a real weird funk. And like I guess I gotta imagine, looking back at it, that's one of the reasons I stopped doing the podcast. I was just like, who gives a shit about the podcast? Been doing it long enough. You know what I mean? I was in a dark place, sad place. And then a little while after that, when I'm in a dark place, I like to really dig into the old alcohol, which a lot of people do. You know what I mean? Not saying some woe is me, whatever. That's pretty normal, regular stuff to do. But I've been doing that for a long, long time. And a while went by, and I don't know. Last October, I stopped drinking alcohol. It's been like almost 11 months now that I haven't had a sip. And I guess that helped take me to a little bit of a better place, slowly but surely. Also, I think when somebody that you love passes away, especially like I never really dealt with a lot of death like that before. I never really dealt with a lot of people, really anybody that close to me, dying before. And I think that I didn't even realize at the time that I was handling it in a weird way, and I'm still handling it in a weird way. And then another friend of mine recently passed away that fucked me up a little bit too. But I think that in a really odd way, death makes you in the long term a little bit more joyful, because you're appreciative of the fact that you even get to breathe and be alive. You know what I mean? Because it's a gift, and you don't really, it's life ain't fair, man. Not everybody gets that. Like, he was only 29 years old, and he, always a really healthy, active dude, and he was just stricken with this fucking disease from out of nowhere, and it was super, super unfair seeming and super random. Just like the exact opposite of the winning the lottery, you know? And as much sadness as it brings, you know, sadness and joy are really hand in hand. And I feel like after a while, after I kind of let go of some of my nonsense, I started to be a little bit well, I'd say a lot happier. I mean, if you listen to, I mean, it's not all out yet, but my new album it's all feel good stuff. It's all uplifting stuff. If you listen to the album I just put out, the acoustic album, I feel like I'm just like me. Look at me, whatever. But there's a bunch of songs on there that talk about death and just how, you know, my favorite song on there is called Vulture, and it's just pretty simple message. It's just there's the cycle of life. You can't really do anything about it. It's going to be you next, maybe, you know? And I think that you just got to be appreciative of what you got. And I don't know. For a while, the podcast just fell to the side. I was like, and you know how it is when you don't do something. It's even harder to bring it back. Like doing a podcast every week. If you haven't done it in a year, to bring it back, what are you gonna do? One, you know what I mean? So I don't really have a logical reason for not doing the podcast. I will say, like, I don't have to do the fucking podcast. You know what I mean? I don't have to do it. You know what I mean? I did it for a long time. Like, not everybody that does a podcast like does it until they die. Like, not everybody, you're not obligated to do a podcast that only you is really forcing yourself to do. But you know, I did enjoy doing the podcast, and I think that it's a good therapeutic device for me. It's a good way of communicating to people that might listen to my music or support me. You know, even from like a business sense, man, it's good fucking advertising. Like even earlier in this podcast, I already fucking told you I was gonna sell skateboards. You know what I mean? So that's a thing. But yeah, I don't know. You know, you can't do everything. And doing the podcast, like straight up, objectively, does interfere with other aspects of life. You know what I mean? If you got to stop what you're doing and talk for an hour. But like again, it's like it's hard to explain what I mean when I say it takes longer and more energy than people think. It really does, man. It's not like it's not like I'm out here, you know, digging ditches. Not like I'm out here doing what I used to do and what some of my friends still do. Shout out to my boy Matt. My boy Matt out there living in Lusby, Maryland. His company, Knee Deep Ponds, that I used to work for. Out there in the middle of the summer, that Maryland muggy mosquito muck. That muddy Maryland mosquito moth muck. Building ponds. Carrying fucking 100-pound rocks from a truck to a backyard, putting it in a hole you just dug to make, at the end of the day, a very, very beautiful piece of art. Shout out to Matt and Gordy. But that's fucking real work. I'm over here complaining about doing a podcast. That's real work, y'all. Yeah, so I don't really have, I guess, did I just explain that? Did I just answer y'all's questions as far as why I stopped doing the podcast? It's not really logical, I suppose, but A, I was sad and down. B, I don't have to fucking do the podcast. It's just some shit, you know, it's not like my boss fucking got mad at me when I stopped doing the podcast. You know, I guess I'm my own boss, but I'm trying to be a better boss of myself. People always brag about being their own boss, but I'm really suited to be an employee. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, when it comes to work, I really always like even in my old jobs when I had real jobs, don't fucking make me a manager. I don't want to tell people what to do. Just tell me what to do and I'll do it. So when you're your own boss, you're also your own employee, you know? So I resent the boss. And the boss is myself, And as a boss, I'm always thinking about firing the employee, and the employee is myself. So that's a weird relationship to have with yourself when you're your own boss. So I guess myself quit. Myself that is the employee, who is the employee that works in the podcast department, told my boss, who is the manager of all things wax, said, "Fuck you, man, I ain't doing the podcast anymore, okay?" And the boss, who was also me, got that piece of notice and said, "Well, guess we're gonna have to downsize our company because I don't think I have anybody else that I could bring in here to do the podcast, being that the only person that can do Wax's podcast is Wax, and Wax just quit. Guess we're gonna have to downsize the company and not have a podcast department anymore for a while. Maybe one day we can bring it back, the podcast department, but right now it's not gonna be there." So that is what I did and said. That is what I just said. That's what I just said just now, about 10 seconds ago. This one here is from Jordan/JD Herrera. Big Wax, what's up, man? This is a newer email. I got to all the newer emails from the most recent podcast, but I haven't got to the old ones that I just haven't read yet from fucking a year or two ago. But I will do that this week. Big Wax, what's up, man? I thoroughly enjoyed the new podcast. I don't know if you still read these emails or not. Just thought I'd try to reach out, man. I wanted to say congratulations on 10 months sobriety, man. That's fucking incredible. It's not an easy thing to do. Quit one of your vices. But you seem to be in a much better mindset lately with the new album around the corner, Chain Reaction making its return with some new episodes, and bringing the podcast back. Latest episode with Davey was awesome. Maybe you can keep a segment on the podcast where you guys just riff and freestyle. It was a ton of fun to listen to. I hope you do a tour for I saw you in 2014 at Warped Tour in Albuquerque. What a show, man. Love Mariachi Band y Todo. Would love to see you come back so I can hear Diamond in the Rough live. Take care, Big Wax. Look forward to all your new stuff the next coming weeks. Well, I appreciate that, JD. Couple things. I remember that show, the Albuquerque Warped Tour show. There was a crazy sandstorm. Do you remember that? You're probably like, yeah, well, not really, because here in Albuquerque, sandstorm is just a fact of life. Every day we have a sandstorm. I was born in a sandstorm. But yeah, that was fun. That was one of my favorite times in my life was doing that Warped Tour back in 2014 with Watsky and all of our mutual friends that were in the tour bus with us and in the bands. That was so much fun. But yeah, I am doing a tour for this album. The dates will be announced shortly, but I did announce the fact that I'm doing a tour this fall/winter. I will be touring the United States of America. I will be bringing Yubi. Yubi is a rapper who was a member of the band Cess Crew. Cess Crew is signed to Strange Music, Tech Nine's label. They've been doing their thing for a long time, and let me tell you something. I wasn't super familiar with their stuff, but man, this dude Yubi is. If you like fucking rapping, this dude is amazing. He's an incredible lyricist. And I haven't seen him live yet, but I know he toured with my homies, the Palmer Squares, and they said he's super dope and he's a good guy. So for me, being the good guy thing is even just as important because we're going to be sitting in a van together for fucking 2 months. I'm also bringing a cat named Lance Skywalker. That's Skywalker, S-K-I-I-I Walker. And I'm really excited about this. This dude is signed to TDE, which is the Top Dog Entertainment, the label that is also home of people such as Kendrick Lamar and Schoolboy Q, which is kind of exciting, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I love Kendrick Lamar. So to have that little connection is cool. Plus, if you look up this dude's music, it's super dope. It is chill. It's melodic. It's interesting. It's funky. And I'm into it. I'm a fan. Not to mention, I'll be bringing my homie, my DJ, the one, the only, IFTW, Image from the Wood, the man with many names, Image, IFTW, Christian, and I can't remember his, God, it's been so long since I've hung out with Image, can't remember his other nicknames, but love the dude, and he's an amazing DJ, and he will be on the tour. Not to mention my homie, Farrell the Earthworm. Farrell is going to act as the tour manager as well as he's going to perform on the tour. So I'm looking forward to that. I toured with both of those guys on the last tour I did. So it's exciting, man. So stay tuned. Keep your eyes open to my dumbass social media, because I will be providing the exact dates of this United States tour as soon as possible. And hopefully next year I'll make my way over the fucking seas and head over to Europe if everything works out like I hope. As far as the podcast episode with Davey and doing a podcast segment with Davey, I would love to do that. You know what I'd really like to do? I'd really like to do a separate podcast where me and Davey have a podcast all based on improvisational music. And we have some of my favorite rappers, some of my favorite songwriters, some of his favorite songwriters on the show. And just have like question and answer segments that just randomly, almost psychedelically intertwine with improvisational music. That's what I would like to do. That one we could actually fucking videotape. And before you know it, I'm as big as Joe Rogan. Before you know it, there's Joe Rogan talking about acid or whatever, and then there's me and Davey singing about stupid shit. That's what it'll be. It'll be the Trinity: Joe Rogan, Hamilton, and Wax and Davies podcast. The most talked about. Have you ever seen Hamilton? Have you ever listened to Joe Rogan? Have you ever imagined them fucking and having a podcast as a child? Anyway, thank you for the congratulations on the sobriety. Anybody that's listened to this podcast for over the years knows that I battle with my vices, my main vices being alcohol and cigarettes. And right now, I'm off of both of them. So we'll see how that goes. It's going to be an interesting... I'm trying to go for 2 years with the alcohol. That's been my goal, to go for 2 years. Who knows? Maybe after the 2 years, I'll just be like, why would I go back? But that does mean this tour, I will not be drinking, which is crazy. It's crazy. Old me would not even understand the concept of, like, you know, old me says one of the biggest perks of doing a tour and being a musician is that you get a rider, and the rider is like, what do you want us to give you backstage? And I say, a case of Pacifico. When Brian Washington used to tour with us, it'd be a case of Pacifico and a bottle of Hennessy. And if you can't get free alcohol, why even do music at all? You know? But on this tour, I will be sober as a jaybird. Is that a fucking sober as a jaybird? Why? Somebody has said that, right? I'm going to Google that right now. I'm going to say sober as a, and see what comes up. Sober as a judge, sober as a gopher, sober as a bird, sober as a goat, sober as a clam, sober as a church mouse. I thought it was quiet as a church mouse. What if you type in J? Okay, sober as a jaybird. There is a sober as a jaybird, so stop judging me. Maybe that's what the J stands for. Judgmental bird. Sober as a judgmental bird that's looking at all these people drinking, saying, tisk, tisk, tisk. That's probably what they were talking about. Anyway, I'm a super non-judgmental motherfucker, man. And anybody that tours with me can snort cocaine off their own dick. I don't give a fuck what you do. Drink, do drugs. I don't give a fuck. But on this tour, old Wax is going to be sober as a jaybird. So unfortunately, when people come up to me intoxicated after the show, and lovingly, keep in mind, lovingly spit in my face while talking, hug me with their sweat-covered BO bodies, and inevitably the tall, drunk, sweaty man puts his arm around you for a picture, and he doesn't really realize that your face is in a hot, soup-like environment of his armpit. And, of course, that's when his camera doesn't work on his phone. And he has to explain to somebody how to use it while you sit there in the orb that is this hot Earth's core, if it was musty, environment of his armpit. But my point is that a lot of people like to drink with me after the show, buy me a beer, buy me a shot, and I'm going to feel like a real dick this time not accepting those offers. Especially if somebody comes up to me with a drink that they already bought. There goes your $8 down the tubes. So I'm sorry in advance for that. Okay, this is Dan C. from Portland. Hey, Wax, longtime listener of your music, but fairly new to the podcast. I'm listening to the episodes in reverse order, and it looks like you take the occasional hiatus from the podcast every now and then. Although not usually for this long. Hope you didn't give up on the podcast, man. It's fun to listen to your ramblings while I'm working my shitty warehouse job. You know, that warehouse job might not be as shitty as you think, man. Anyway, by listening to your music and your podcast, I noticed that you are no stranger to depression and feeling down on life, but you still manage to drop albums and do all these other cool things with your life. Do you have any other tips for other artists suffering from depression who struggle being as functional with their creative shit? Thanks for reading, man. I'm a musician as a hobby. And if the podcast makes a triumphant return, I'll have to take a stab at my own version of your jingle, LOL. Also, can I get a shout out for my homies Cody and Erica down in Burbank? Shout out to y'all, Cody and Erica of Burbank. Thanks a lot, Wax. Anyway, yeah, man, I struggle with depression, of course. I do, and I think it's worse when you put more depressants into your body. I think it's worse. But even recently, I've been super depressed. For some reason, I'm always fucked up around 4th of July. 4th of July is not a positive holiday for me. I don't know what it is, dude. But every time the 4th of July comes around, I'm fucking miserable. And this year was no exception. You can ask my brother, man. Nobody knows me more than my goddamn twin brother. And I'm just relatively bipolar. And right now, I don't know if you can tell. I just woke up, so I might not sound like it. But right now, I'm on an almost an insanely high wave of self-confidence and self-approval and just general positivity. If you had talked to me on July 4th this year, I would have been different. I was just like, what the fuck is going on? Why do I do anything? Everything that I do is going to fail, etc. And it's really weird being a musician because music is so goddamn subjective, especially if you're like a songwriter. Like, I guess like if you strictly do like lyrical rap, maybe there's some level of subjectivity. If you're a fast rapper, it's like, yeah, I keep getting faster and faster. If you're a guitar player who like shreds or just practices and gets better and better, or like a piano player who plays like, I don't know what, like concertos or whatever, and just play faster and faster with a metronome, I guess there's some level of subjective, like getting better and better. But if you're a songwriter and you're writing all these happy songs, and all of a sudden you're sad, the songs sound fucking stupid sometimes. Like, point being that listening to music really has more to do with the listener than the music. The way that you ingest it really has more to do with you than the fucking work. And I actually read recently, not even recently, a couple of years ago, that, you know, let's say, for example, let's take me, for example. If you became a big fan of my shit when you were 14, I will never make something, no matter what music I make, I will never make something that's as good to you as my old music. And it's not because of the music per se. It's because of the way your brain functions. And forget me. Don't even think about this in terms of me. The way that your brain develops when you're 14 years old and you listen to music, you're experiencing something for the first time, and you're experiencing these emotions and these these fucking synapses in your brain are making connections for the first time. It's almost like what they say about doing heroin. Like it'll never be as good as the first time. So it's for the same reason, when you're 60 and you're sitting in your garage at night, desperately trying to get away from your nagging wife, annoying children, trying to get away from that mental space, which is your shitty warehouse job, Dan C. from Portland, who wrote this letter, and you sit in that only place that you can call your own, that garage full of spiders, and it's way too hot, but you have that old record player, and you're playing Jan and Dean or whatever the fuck you listen to when you're a kid. You're not really in there. You don't know a guy like that when he gets into that environment, he's listening to fucking Lil Pump. You know what I mean? That's a real rarity. Lil Pump was just a random example. I mean something new, you know? He's listening to what he listened to in high school, going back to then. And it's not because he loved high school necessarily. It's because when he heard that music, it was it did something to him that you'll never get back again, no matter what new music comes out. Not saying you won't enjoy it, but it'll never be the same. Anyway, as far as Dan C goes, I will say this first of all. If you are depressed and feeling down, sometimes if you're in that state, one of the only things you do have the ability to do is your artwork. And it may reflect that. I made some super depressing shit in my past. This album is different than my past stuff. There's no Straight to Paradise or Music and Liquor on this one, and I apologize for the people that's their favorite stuff. But you know, the music is all sunshiny on this one. Yeah, the best thing you can do is actually try to put that into a piece of art. Like back in the podcast that you're probably talking about, you know, one of the reasons I started doing my podcast was for my own kind of therapy, you know what I mean? So you can talk stuff out, even if it is a little crazy to talk to yourself the way that I do on this podcast, and I'm currently doing this instant. Even if that is a little crazy, I think it can be helpful. But I do know that feeling of not even seeing any reason to get up in the morning, and it's almost impossible to combat. So I would say, you know what I've discovered, and this is fucking stupid, and this is also, it's not rocket science, but your mental state and your physical state are way, way, way more connected than society gives it credit for. They tell you to take antidepressants, things like that. You know, if you get up in the morning and go take a walk, that shit will do more for. And this is me talking out of experience. I'm not. I'm, in case you thought I was, I'm not a doctor. You know, you don't see a lot of people. There's a reason why people that are like these buff, ripped dudes are usually like so self-confident that they're douchey. You don't see a lot of people that are in really good shape that are super down and depressed, because there's like endorphins or whatever that you release every time you do physical activity that make you happy. And you don't have to be like that. But I can tell you for a fact that when I do things like take hikes and do yoga and go jogging or whatever, like these things vastly and drastically improve my sense of well-being. And it's all because and this also goes along with like eating a little bit more healthy or whatever. But I even more than eating, I think is the physical activity and just being outside, even like being in the woods. So if you have a nice park, Dan C, if you have a nearby park or a nearby hiking trail, start doing that shit every morning. I know it's hard if I can get yourself to do it, but just say, you know what? If I only do one thing today, I'm going to go outside and take a walk in nature. And I bet you that will drastically improve your state of mind. Because we think our brain is some different thing than our body. It's not. It's just fucking part of it. Yeah, whatever. All right. This one is from Reen. Can I get a shout out for Reen and Jean? Reen and Jean. Shout out to you. I hope that's a couple, Reen and Jean. Which one is the man and which one is the woman? I guess it doesn't matter, does it? Who said one was a man and one was a woman, Mike? Why does one got to be a man and one got to be a woman? Maybe they're both men. Maybe they're both women. Who knows? Yo, Wax, love that you're back doing the podcast. I know the people listening missed it big time. I ran into you and Herbs performing In the Blood on YouTube and thought to myself, there's no way he remembers this lyrically intricate song from 10 years ago. So my question for you is, how good is your memory when it comes to your past projects? With this tour coming up, I bet you got to practice a few. P.S. Come to Seattle so I can beat you at rock, paper, scissors again. I think I do remember that, actually. I think I do remember that rock, paper, scissors match. But the only way to really win rock, paper, scissors is to make your hand look like one of those puppets. You know when you put your hand in front of a light and reflect it on the wall and you make it look like an alligator or a sock puppet or whatever? And you just call it Jaws. Jaws beats rock, paper, or scissors. You just fucking eat either one. So that's like probably the best thing you're gonna learn today. If you ever want to win at rock, paper, scissors, just call Jaws. Although I bet you if Jaws ate scissors, it could be harmful, even to a shark's stomach, depending on how sharp the scissors are. I don't know. Yeah, In the Blood. Me and my brother used to perform that. That's off the Wax and Herbal Tea Grizzly Season album from 2006. Been doing this for a while, because that was by far not my first project. Yeah, I probably remember that. Cats try to pigeonhole my written flow, but didn't know my spitting so original that it cannot be bitten or forgotten. Hip hop's Johnny Rotten. Got the bad that your mommy gotten. Suicidal kamikaze plotting your murder story in purgatory. The burning glory of my weeds unmasked the deed. Locked to the brain and got lashed and keyed. Got from the dead with hot tracks you need. You spot Wax and steez on the top of the trees. It's hogging up all of the shine from these other MCs. The people in my neighborhood can get their water to freeze because my presents got their fridges at 100 degrees. Rapping is so funny. My presents has their fridges at 100 degrees. Do you get it? Because I'm so hot. The people in my neighborhood can't get their water to freeze because my presents got their fridges at 100 degrees. Back then, me and my brother really didn't give a fuck. That's like I said on the last podcast, I think, or I said on something. That's my favorite. That's my favorite album, Wax and Herbal Tea Grizzly Season. I don't think not everybody understands why that album is good. I haven't listened to it in a while. I don't even know if it's good. Is it good? I have no fucking idea. But I know that there was like a big music industry guy back in like 2007. I did this Vibe Versus contest where I rapped in my car, and it was kind of like a hard rap, you know what I'm saying, with like a hard kind of beat. And I actually got hit up by like some music industry guy, and I was all excited. And he was like, "Do you have any recorded music?" And I sent him that shit. Didn't hear back from him. Didn't hear back. But yeah, as soon as he turned on and heard that fucking bonk bonk bonk, it's like some hippie jam band rap or something. And then it goes all over the place. Anyway, what was your question? How hard is it to remember these old songs? It is difficult, man, but it's actually harder to remember like the guitar parts. I think lyrics are easier to remember than like if you do like acoustic songs. It's hard to remember like the chords and shit. But you just kind of rehearse and make sure you know it for the show. You know what I mean? You know what? If any of you guys are planning to come, maybe I'm trying to do a little bit more appreciation of people that listen to my music. If you have a song that you want to hear at this upcoming tour, there's certain songs like Music and Liquor, Rosanna. There's certain songs that I have to play. And I'm going to do at least a few. I'm going to do a good amount actually from the new album. I know when I did the Cookout Chronicles tour, it was kind of insane how little amount of music from that album I played, and I apologize in retrospect for that. But this one has a bunch of songs that are kind of like suited to be played live, and I'm trying to really make it a tour that's in celebration of the release of this album. Blah 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 blah. Every fucking Anyway, if you have a song that you want to hear on this tour, beatsforwax@gmail.com. BEATSFORWAX@gmail.com. And I think I'm going to keep the podcast a little short this week, and I'll be back next week. Maybe with a guest, maybe not. But I will try to get back to everybody that emailed me over the fucking year that I didn't do the podcast. I think it was more than a year, really. I think it was more like a year and a half, if not longer. I don't know. But I'm trying to come back with it, and this that you've been listening to is an example of that. All right, be safe out there.